Welcome back to the Art of Advisory. My name is Kirk Bowman from the Art of Value. I'm joined by my co-host Hector Garcia from Quick Bookkeeping and Accounting. Hey, Hector.
Hey, Kirk, how are you? Excited to finally be able to talk about this after a year of work.
I'm more than excited. The adrenaline's flowing, and so let's just cut to the chase. I am over the moon about what we have come up with. We've come up with a new, I don't even want to call it a course because it's more than a course. We have come up with a new online workshop for accountants and bookkeepers called the AltAccountant. And I would summarize what it is this way. The AltAccountant is for people who are tired of learning and are ready to start doing. We're going to help you focus on three core pillars of your business. How do you position? How do you price? And how do you innovate? And we're going to help you do that, not by giving you a lot of good information, but by helping you take action in each of those three pillars during a 6-week workshop. What do you think?
That's right. So there are three pieces of inspiration that came about this. So number one, Kirk and I, we started working together, I would say, summer of last year, developing our podcast, developing the Art of Advisory podcast. And we knew when we started that we were going to see where this takes us in terms of developing some sort of next level educational content. And we've been learning by working together and just individually, we've been learning how people prefer to learn. And as both educators in this space through podcasts, webinars, live classes, one-on-one consulting, I mean, Kirk and I, we do training of all sorts. We know that most people get the most out of their new learning experience by doing. But the webinar space and the conference space doesn't really lend itself too much for learning by doing. So we've copied or mimicked a very successful program called the Alt MBA by Seth Godin, which is basically trying to teach people the fundamentals of an MBA program through projects and getting people, just giving people short prompts like, this is the use case. This is the problem we're trying to solve. We build a project around it. You get together with groups to brainstorm, and then you build your own project that is also going to mimic a pillar of transformation for your own practice. So we could probably dig a little bit deeper into each of these three pillars that we're going to focus on. But Kirk, what else about the process that inspired us to finally structure it and finally offer it to the market?
Well, I'll be honest. The biggest frustration that drove my interest in this is that whenever I do a conference session, whenever I do an online webinar, whenever I'm teaching one of the courses that I've taught in the past, the most common piece of feedback I always get is, how do I, and then fill in the blank. There's always something they want to know how to do. And a lot of times they're looking for a quick fix, right? They're looking for an easy way out. They're looking for a template or a formula or a cheat sheet or something like that. As I thought more about my frustration with how do I realized that for at least a majority, if not all the people who asked that, I think really the underlying message is, I want to take action now. In other words, for some people, the question probably still is literally, how do I do it? Give me little steps. But I think more than that, people are just like, help me take action now. And so that's what I want to do. I want to take that question of how do I and change it to, here's how you do. We're going to give you a framework. We're going to give you the ability. You're not going to sit through a lot of long lectures and long sessions and a lot of content. You're going to spend your time doing, and you're going to spend your time doing with other people. We're going to put you in a group with 5 to 6 other people who have the same goal. In 6 weeks, they want to make substantial change in their business in 3 areas: positioning, pricing, and innovation. So it really came out of that basic question of how do I? And I got tired of hearing it. I want to create a course that answers that question, because instead of asking, how do I, you're almost overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, I am doing.
That's right. And, the most important piece is we had to pick the time frame, and the time frame was key, right? So do we make this a month, 2 months, 3 months? And, they say, I don't know who they is, but I do this. They say that it takes 21 days to build a habit, right? I think definitely 21 days is too short for the amount of content that we want folks to focus on learning. We believe that if you do 2 projects for each pillar, right? So we had the 3 pillars that we discussed. If you do 2 projects for each pillar, the one where you first toy with the idea and present your first iteration of it, and then you get feedback and you get the project critiqued. The second iteration for it would be the actual time that it sinks. So that's why we said, well, let's limit this to 1 project per week, because we want to make this something that you do during business hours. We're not necessarily looking for this to take over your weekends or your nights or anything like that. There has to be a high level of commitment. I think for the most part, depending on how quick you are, you'll be spending probably between 4 to 6 hours a week, between the short lecture, the brainstorming session with your group, the actual project execution, and then the critique and the presentation of the project to your group. You'll be spending between 4 to 6 hours per week. So we thought that was the perfect balance of you still being able to run your business and also work on transforming the business at the same time. So that's why we picked 6 weeks. And also, we want this to be during tax season on purpose, because we want it to be during the busiest time for the folks that are busy, because we want the creative juices, the frustration, the multiple clients, the multiple requests to play a big role into the transformation process, right? Because if you're doing this while you're really comfortable, your mindset, it's around comfort. But if you're doing this while you're busy, your mindset is around fixing that busy and turning busy into productive and turning productive into profitability. So we also do it in the middle of tax season on purpose for that. So,
and I would add, and we talked about this on the show before, but another thing that I think is fueling this for both of us is this idea that I think we got to get out of this mindset of tax season. Okay. We have got to quit letting the business run your life. You need to run the business. And that includes a business that does not take over your nights and weekends during certain times of the year. And there is a way to run a business that way. I know accountants and bookkeepers who do it. So it is possible. We want to make it possible for more people. We want to unlock that secret. Tax season should not be a ball and chain around your neck, pretty much the entire first quarter and the first part of the second quarter every year. And so, yes, it is during February. But you know what? You got the same 24 hours as everybody else. You simply have to set your priorities and allocate your time accordingly. And so we're going to challenge you intentionally to make time for this type of significant change in your business when it's busy. Because to be honest, you're going to be busy sometime anyway. There's never a time when you're not busy. Okay. If you're not, quote, busy in the business, you're doing something else. You're taking a vacation. You're spending time with your kids. There's always stuff going on. There's no such thing as extra time. We all have the same 168 hours in a week. So whether we do it in February or in June, I don't think it's going to make that much a difference.
And think about it too. I'm a tax preparer. I'm a tax professional. It's my busy time too. And I've never done I've taught I think I've, sporadically speaking, I probably taught a lot of this content already, but it's just in different cases, right? Like some videos, some webinars, some live classes, some private, but I've never done it in this magnitude where we're basically pouring my entire experience of my practice into one program, not the entire experience, but the one that matters anyway. And it's in the middle of my tax season too. So I also want, this to put my money where I'm putting my money where my mouth is, right? I'm telling you that I have a really busy tax practice. Trust me when I tell you this. I do tons of tax returns and it's a busy time for me. But I'm going to prove it to myself and to everybody that it is possible to transform your business and learn while you're a little bit busier than normal. But I don't get ball and chained around tax practice. Yes, it's busier for me, but I built such a practice that I can afford to do this. So this is not for the entire profession. We're going to have a handful of people that sign up for this, but I guarantee you the ones that do are going to feel the difference between, a well-positioned practice or a well-positioned personal brand versus, the just the dragging and hustling and bustling of the day-to-day practitioner. So that's kind of the theme behind it as well.
I agree. And I'm thoroughly excited about it. So, key points about this that we've already covered, right? It's about, we're emphasizing doing over learning. There is some learning, but you're going to learn by doing. 2, you got to prioritize. There is no good time to do this, so we might as well just get started. And 3, it's going to take a group to help you succeed. One of the reasons that I think a lot of online programs fail is because you're simply left to do it on your own. There's not enough support. There's not enough camaraderie. And so we're going to add that as an element to this. We're going to put you in a group of 5 to 6 other people, and you're going to meet with them online each week. And you're going to not only encourage each other, but as you complete these weekly projects, you're going to review each other's work. So we're bringing in another component that is one of the things I've taught at conferences, is the idea of this after action review. We're going to take action. We're going to ask people for feedback on that action. And then we're going to review that feedback together, so that not only do you do, but you then review and improve. That's also part of it. What we're trying to teach and get people to switch over to is this idea of constant iteration. And it simply is an idea that a lot of small steps add up to big change.
That's right. That's right. Let's do an example, for example. And we can't give away the prompts for the projects ahead of time, because we want your mind to be 100% concentrated that week on that specific project. But we have a list of like 100 projects that Kirk and I have been working on, the use cases and the projects we could potentially do. So I'm gonna throw one of them out there just to kind of tell you, how this thing will work out. And this may not necessarily be the project itself. That would be one of the 6, but I will give you an example. For example, one of them is, think about 3 popular services or products that your current customers purchase, but not from an accountant, right? So think about 3 popular products that your clients purchase somewhere else, not from an accountant, and how you would create a similar product that solves the same problem, but done by an accountant, right? So come up with 3. This is out of the blue. So obviously we're going to have a lecture where we can explain, like if that was one of the projects, we explain how to think about this and do a couple of examples. And then you're going to have to do your research and brainstorm and then present them. And then the idea is that you come up with at least 1 low-hanging fruit and 2 ridiculous ones. Like ridiculous ones would be like cutting hair, right? So business owners get their hair cut, right? So how would you take something as ridiculous as that and implement it into your practice? What would that look like? This is really to get you thinking about, think outside the box, think about problem solving, think about getting creative. Disruption will not be learned from another accountant. I don't think so. I think disruption will come from within, and you will learn it from other industries. So it's just throwing one of the examples out there. We were throwing silly examples out there, but these are the type of things that when you go to the exercise and you come up with them and you write it down and you put the business plan around it, and then you present it to other folks and have other folks critique it and you have to defend it, then it will let you know what is the framework for innovation. So it's just one of the examples we can throw out there. We have a couple that we can do, but Kirk, what about that? What about thinking outside your profession looking outside your profession, looking at something nobody else in your profession does as the pillar of innovation. Why is that important?
One of the things that is, it's a mindset trap that we fall into. And I say we, meaning professionals, whether it's accountants, bookkeepers, software, or other professions. We fall into, we compare ourselves to our peers or to our competition or to both, and we make decisions about what we are going to do or how we're going to do it or what we're not going to do based on others. And that is one of the most limiting things that we can fall into, that comparison trap, whether it's particularly comparison in our own industry.
And let me add to that, also defining who we are and what we are based on what other people think it is, right? Like why is somebody else defining what an accountant is? Why is your next potential client coming up with a preconceived notion of what accountant should be? And if you don't conform to that, it won't work for them. Like, why are we falling into the trap of allowing the norm or the industry to dictate what we are and how we create value? It doesn't matter what you call yourselves. It doesn't matter what industry you belong to. The only thing that matters at the end is, can you help your client get to point A to point B? And the journey, it's pleasant. The results from point B are worth more than what they're paying. And all along, the client felt you were a partner in the process. That goes with any industry, every single industry. And that's why we focus on those three specific pillars.
I agree, because positioning is basically how does your audience or your potential customers perceive your expertise? Pricing is how do they perceive the value that you can help them create? And innovation is simply the seed that you plant that keeps you moving forward in your positioning, in your pricing, because your positioning is not a destination, it's a journey. Your pricing is not a destination, it's a journey. You are constantly moving forward. You are constantly innovating. And I would argue, you're either innovating or you're comparing. So I talked a minute ago about the trap of comparison. If you're not innovating, then I think by definition you're comparing. And I would rather be innovating. By the way, when I'm innovating, it's when I'm excited. This, to me, what we're doing here is innovating, right? We're taking something that we've learned about and studied from afar, the Alt MBA by Seth Godin, and we're tweaking our own content, implementing it with his education model, and we're now going to offer that into something that I don't think's ever been offered before in this way. I would argue the content hasn't been offered before, nor has the idea of doing in a workshop been offered before. And so we're innovating. And I'm not worried about what other people are doing. I've had probably 3 people follow me as a friend on Facebook the last 3 days, and they're all people in the accounting bookkeeping space who are offering some type of online training or education to the industry. I'm not even worried about that. I'm just like, hey, they think what I'm doing is cool. They want to be in contact with me. Cool. Now, how do I get back to what I'm doing here, this thing we're trying to launch? How do I make it bigger and better? I'm not even thinking about comparison.
Absolutely. So on that note, this program is not to teach you how to run your business, right? That's not what this program is all about, because that would go against what we're trying to teach. This program teaches you the framework that you need to design your own business. This is to design your alternative practice. If you have a practice now that is okay and is good, just good, but it's not great and it's not amazing and it's not what you foresee to be the security of your financial future as a practitioner, then what you need to do is look for an alternative business model. So if you don't mind, let me share these slides real quick. So this is where the inspiration came from, and this is part of it come from my own specific experience, and part of it from what I learned with Kirk. Kirk has been my pricing coach for several years, and pricing was the seed that was planted in my head back in 2013 when I first heard Ron Baker speak, that made me change my perspective in life towards my practice. So, pricing is something that I've been, studying quite a bit. But because of pricing, because I wanted to be worth more, because I wanted to create more value, in order to price where I wanted to be, I had to fix 3 other pillars in my business. I had to fix my positioning or design my positioning, innovation, and the quality of work. Now, in the program that we're going to teach, we're not going to teach quality of work. We're assuming that you already know accounting, QuickBooks, debits and credits, financial statements. That's a 4th pillar to an alternative business model that focuses on, what we focus on. But we're going to focus on the 3 that we will strongly believe that if you have good positioning, good pricing, and you innovate, your quality of work will speak for itself. So this is not to teach anyone how to do accounting, how to use QuickBooks or debits and credits. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to focus on this first 3. So let's break them down. I don't want to call this marketing, although positioning kind of is marketing. But when I think of traditional marketing, I think of how I promote or push information out to my potential customers and convince them to work with me. That's marketing. Positioning is the inverse. How do you get people to find you? How do you get people to know that you should be the only person that they work with? So that has to do with building a niche or a specialty. So we'll have projects around that. So the project's supposed to teach you how to find it or how to build it or how to create it. You have to simplify your message, which means when someone says what you do, you need to have a one-liner that explains everything: how you price, how you treat your clients, who your clients are, what type of clients you work with, your focus area, how you innovate. That one-liner message is supposed to speak to all that stuff. So we'll build projects around getting you to discover that or create that. So that's positioning, right? Like nowadays, I don't do marketing, right? I mean, I do webinars, I do videos, I do podcasts, I do all those sorts of things, but I don't do traditional marketing. My customers find me. My customers call me saying, you're the only person I want to work with because you establish yourself as an expert in this area. So I like to teach people how to build your own positioning plan, how to just create your own positioning. Kirk, you have any comments on that before I move to pricing?
Well, I would just say that essentially having customers find you is the new marketing. Okay, you don't go out and find customers anymore. They find you. How do they find you? You create a beacon so bright that they can't help but find you. How do you do that? By creating a position and by continually laser focused, hammering that position through everything you do. It's through your website copy, it's through your email newsletter, it's through your YouTube channel, it's through your Facebook posts, it is through your sessions that you do at conferences, it may be through the book you write, it may be during your podcast. You just pick that laser and you just continually drill on that. And so that is marketing. But you can't market without a good position. I guess you can, but it's not going to be effective. And so I would say, you would say you don't market. I would say you do, but marketing is just a natural part of what you do in your business. That's why you don't think of it separately. And so that would be my comments on that. And that's where we want to get people to. We want to get you to the point where you don't think about marketing as marketing. Marketing is an outflow of who you are and the position you chose, and you can't help but do it. And that creates a lighthouse that people are going to find.
I'll give you a perfect example. This morning, a couple hours before that, I was invited to speak at a real estate office, and they wanted me. Just had 1 hour, and they wanted me to teach sort of like tax planning for 2018. What does a real estate professional need to know for tax planning in 2018? And right before I get started, I tell people, "Hey, I'm going to start recording, so leave your questions till the end, so I can." I can stop the recording. So if you don't want your voice to come out, and people are like, "Why are you recording it?" And I'm like, "I record everything." It wasn't like something to think about. Like it took me a second to remember that this is a strange concept for people. That's my position. I'm a video guy. I document what I learn and I document what I teach. That is my position. I want people to expect that what I do is for the benefit of the entire earth. And that was just like a shocking statement for people. But those folks they've had maybe 100 people present in their office. How many of them recorded it and put it into YouTube and made it available to them? That has become part of my positioning. I position myself to be the person that doesn't have private conversations, that has public conversations with the world. So, and folks get attracted to that. Now, you can imitate, you can mimic that. There's no issues with that. As a matter of fact, you could argue that I've made a big movement to help other folks imitate and do that, because that's really the easiest, fastest way to establish authority in your area of specialty. So let's move on to pricing, and I'm sure Kirk's going to have a lot to say about that. I mean, we have dedicated a lot of this this podcast to talk about how pricing and advisory tie together. But when I first understood the concept, truly understood the concept, that value comes before price, my world was flipped upside down. I spent so many years increasing my hourly rate, and I wore that hourly rate like a badge. Like it was like, I'm at 200 now, I'm at 250 now, at 275 now. And it's like this thing that I wore with pride, and that number defined who I was as a professional, who my clients are, and it defined how great I have become and all this stuff. And that in the personal hourly rate is so egocentric, where pricing, true pricing, it's about meeting the customer halfway between this is what you can do for me and this is what I can afford. That's true pricing. Without giving away anything you don't want to give away. And part of positioning, it's pricing, right? So I've positioned myself that no one that is expecting to pay $100 for QuickBooks tutoring will ever even request it from me. I never get those requests. I'm positioned for people to know that they're going to call me because they're looking to get 10 times the value they pay for. So the minute they're ready to ask me a $5,000 question, they're ready to pay my $500 fee or whatever it happens to be. So pricing built itself into positioning so well. As a matter of fact, they're tied to the hip. So we want to have a couple of projects around exercising around pricing. And we want 5-6 people in the group to sort of critique each other on why you chose to price it a certain way or price it a certain way. So we want to give you sort of a use case and tell you how would you price this, or how would you present options, or even better, what questions would you need to ask, or what answers would you need to get in order to obtain this target price. So that's where the exercises around pricing, I think they're going to be life-changing, really. Like if you go through the 2 projects on pricing, I think if that clicks in your head, you will forever know how to value price.
Well, I think we don't teach pricing when in college, definitely not in high school. I'm not aware of any formal business course that teaches pricing. And yet pricing is the one thing, more than anything else, your pricing affects your revenue. And your revenue is what drives your profit. And your profit is what should be driving the success and growth of your business ultimately, because a business is simply a machine that runs on cash. And cash comes from revenue. Actually, cash comes from revenue to profit. That's another discussion. That's another whole nother topic. I'm getting way off topic. But bottom line, pricing is so fundamental. You change your pricing and you change your business. And to change your pricing, you have to change your business model. And so positioning is part of your business model. Pricing is part of your business model. Innovation is part of your business model. By the way, I would argue that you can't innovate without pricing. You can't innovate when you're billing. You have to be pricing to innovate. And so they're all tied together. And pricing is so fundamental. It's not something up in the clouds. You have got to be pricing. And pricing is not probably what you think it is. It is different than what you think it is. And I've done many sessions and many podcasts on what pricing is. We're going to define it and we're going to teach you what it is, and we want you to start pricing, because that has so much to do with getting out of this ball and chain trap that we call tax season. If you were pricing, if you were actually pricing, if you had laser focused position, you were really pricing, and you had innovation to continue in those areas, you would not have the tax season ball and chain.
Yeah, and I'll give you 2 elements or 2 kind of end results from pricing that I think will forever change the way you think. Not you, Kirk, but I'm saying for folks that are still looking for that magic answer in pricing. One is go to every one of your clients. Just take everybody's financial statements. Just grab every one of your clients' financial statements and compare the difference to the bottom line between increasing the revenue or the price by 2% versus which is totally doable, right? Like how difficult is to raise your prices by 2%? If you think about it, really, anyone can raise their prices by 2%. But compare the effect to the bottom line. Just grab 10 of your clients' financial statements. Compare the effect to the bottom line, increasing revenue by 2% versus decreasing expenses by 10%. And by the way, if you are able to help your client decrease expenses by 10%, you are a superhero. It is extremely difficult to help people reduce expenses by 10%. You will be a superhero in a momentous way. But if you compare that versus 2% price increase, you're going to get half to a third of the bottom line versus increasing the price. And increasing the price is a decision, where increasing expenses is an entire project. So that in itself, like when I actually did that exercise, I went to my 10 best clients and I did that, and I noticed the bottom line difference. 10 out of 10 had a higher bottom line with a 2% revenue increase versus a 10% expense reduction. And that forever changed the way I thought about the effects of pricing. And most importantly, helping my clients think about pricing as well. You know, like the most valuable thing you can do to anyone is help them realize that they're worth more than what they're quoting the prices for. That is the single most valuable piece of advice you can do. So if you master pricing for yourself, you will become the most important advisor your customer will ever have if you can help them do that as well.
Well, that's one of the huge advantages of learning to price, is because first, it's a skill you learn and implement in your own business, but then you start helping your customers do it, and you can't help it. If you're looking for something new to offer your customers, learn to price, because guess what? Once you learn to price, you're going to buy. You just can't resist it. The adrenaline gets going so much, you cannot help but want to help them with their pricing. You can't, because it's had such an impact on your business. It's interesting. You know, you talked about costs, right? We have this term cost accountants. I wish the term price accountants would become a thing, because you cannot save and cut costs your way to success, but you can price your way to success.
No, that's absolutely right. The other piece of like where the other example in pricing that also kind of changed the way I thought is, you know, if I don't have profits on my current customers, how am I supposed to reinvest in myself, my business, in technology, test, play, and innovate? It is not possible. If everything that you charge is a little bit higher than your fixed personal cost, because a lot of bookkeepers and accountants that are sort of solo practitioners, they end up charging their clients just a little bit above what it costs them for their lifestyle, and they never have enough money to invest in innovation. Now, you don't need money to invest in innovation. Like, okay, here's $10,000. Let me write a check to Innovation Inc. And that's innovation. That's not how it works. What I mean by that is you need to be able to block out a day out of the week of your schedule, 2 hours, 3 hours, 8 hours out of the week from your schedule to just think about disrupting yourself and disrupting your industry. And this has to happen all the time, and this has to be permanent. Okay. I personally, and I take pride of this today, this 10 years after I started my practice, I only really work, and we can argue the definition of the word work, but I'm only doing client work or client-facing work maybe like 50% of the time. And the first couple of months was tough, but now I have learned how to work 50% of the time and make 4 times as I used to. How? By innovating, by creating products or services that no one else has created. Okay? I literally charge $50 for a spreadsheet, right? Because I took the time to build it. I took the time to test it. I took the time to play with it. I also got 100 other spreadsheets that I can't sell, But this one, it just sells by itself. Every 2 or 3 weeks, and I know, Kirk, you make fun of it because you're like, why do people, why do people buy a spreadsheet on how to price if they don't have the pricing mindset? That may be a different conversation. But the fact that I built a
you
spreadsheet,
saw that tweet.
I saw it.
So let me clarify that, and I'll let you comment on it. But the thing was simply, I said a pricing template without a pricing mindset is worthless. Go.
That's true. Of course, I know. But what I was trying to teach people, like, look, if you're having a tough time pricing, maybe if I give you a visual that you can use, right, to present your services, it could help you. And I've had the feedback has been phenomenal. Now, a lot of these people told me, hey, how do I come up with a number? The spreadsheet wasn't meant to do that. That's what we're saying. Coming up with a number, it's an exercise on itself. The spreadsheet was only it was only a tool for you to use as a complement to your mindset and your process of value creation, value conversation, and pricing. But these are examples of things, and I do these things with webinars, I do these things with videos, I do it with classes that I teach in Miami. I have to develop these things. You don't just out of thin air create a product. Well, actually, you do out of thin air create a product. But what I'm saying is, you need time not spending with your client to be able to test it and iterate it and create it and make the website and email people and ask. This is a process that requires you to play. Let's call it. I think it's just called play. I call it play.
I agree. I mean, innovation for me, it fires me up. I mean, I have at least 6 projects I'm executing next year. None of these projects were on my radar a month ago. Okay. Probably only 2 of them were on my radar 2 weeks ago. But all of a sudden, I got in a zone for innovation. And so now, one of these is the AltAccountant, but there's others. And I'm even considering something. It's like, what if somebody wants everything I'm going to offer next year? Is there a way they could get pay up front and get access to everything I'm going to do next year? That's probably one thing I'm going to offer. I hadn't quite decided what to call it yet, but, and I'm going to be doing stuff in Australia next year, in the US, online. Somebody wants to be a part of all that, there's going to be a way to do that.
That is the next frontier after we're done with all this innovation and new product creation and all that stuff. Your next frontier after, I would say probably a year after this, will be how to turn your business into a subscription-based service, right? Where everything that your business can do, all your, all the technology, all the resources, all your team, all your knowledge somehow can be purchased with a flat monthly price. And you're out there helping now people by the thousands or by the hundreds, because you're no longer working one-to-one when you don't have to, but giving people the ability to do that one-to-one in a scalable way. So that's going to be the next frontier for both Kirk and I, is how do we take everything that we can offer to everyone and basically put it in a system. I don't know what that looks like yet. We're going to have plenty of months for innovate that. So it becomes a subscription service or some sort. So that's the final frontier that we are doing. We're probably not going to discuss that in the program. Although one of the projects could be, hey, if your business, if you had to charge $25 a month for your business, how would you redesign your business around it? I mean, that could be an exercise. So we have tons of ideas about what the exercises will be, but they're all meant to be a combination between a group discovery brainstorming process and also a self-discovery process that will help you create your own business model for your own practice, for yourself at the end of the program.
Here's the interesting thing. I'm reflecting on that question, that I get sometimes, because typically, I keep going back to this, that how do I fill in the blank question, right? How do I question? And typically when it comes up, it's after I have taught or explained a concept or content, and somebody is, I don't want to say struggling, because I don't think that's the right word. They're literally challenging themselves to do it. And they're looking for that one thing to pull them over. Well, guess what? What we're describing, this is how you do. How do I do? You just do. That's the real answer. How do you do? You do. In other words, you learn to do by doing. And we're creating a workshop where you're going to do.
Right. And people say, well, how do I know how to price if I don't have clients to price? Well, then you will have an exercise that will, in one way, shape, or form, teach you how to price a client, be it virtually or not, because you have to succeed at this project. You have to succeed at presenting the right thing. And as a group, and the guidance of and Kirk and I, we want to, we want to be involved, but not like we want everything that we want to teach to be permeated into the content and the project, but we want this to be a self-discovery process where we give you the tools and then you create your plan with those tools. So that's I think that's a good description of what the project is. Kirk, maybe you want to move on to the details. When does it start? How do people sign up? All of that stuff.
Sure. So I'll give you the pertinent details. There's more details available online. So let's start there. If you're ready to pull the trigger on this thing, artofvalue.com/alt accountant. artofvalue.com/alt accountant. That will take you to the one page for this where you can get all the details. And if you're ready to say, I'm on board, you can go there and, buy. So when does it start? We're going to start it on January 28th. Okay. And we're intentional about when we're starting it because we want to be intentional about when we're ending it. We're ending it on March 8th. It's a 6-week period. During each week, we're going to go through an entire project cycle. The project cycle centers around essentially a project that you are assigned to complete during that week. We're going to give you a framework with which to use to complete that project, and you're going to be able to interact with your cohort, your group, to help complete that. And once you've done the work, there's going to be a built-in feedback component, a debriefing where you literally get feedback from your team, and then as a team, you come together and learn from each other. We built that in. So essentially, you're going through 6 weeks, 6 one-week cycles. So it's a 6-week program. Starts the end of January, ends first week of March. How much is it? So early registration is going to be $2,500 if you register by December 31st. After December 31st, it's $3,000. So you're going to save $500 by registering by the end of the year. If you wait till 2019, you're going to see that $500 increase. What if you can't pay the $2,500 or let me rephrase that. That was incorrect. What if you doing it in one lump sum is not possible for you? Well, we are going to offer a payment plan. Now, the payment plan will only be at the $3,000 level. We can't do it at the $2,500 because that kind of, we want to give something to the people who are willing to go all in early, and that is they save money. But if you need a payment plan, we're going to have that for you. We're going to give you the ability to make 3 payments of $1,000. $1,000 will be due when you register. Second $1,000 will be due on January 15th, and the third $1,000 will be due on February 15th. So you essentially got 3 ways you could buy it. I'm actually going to give you a fourth here in a second, but the first 3 ways are register by December 31st, $2,500. Register after December 31st for $3,000. Or you can sign up for a payment plan of 3 payments of $1,000 each. A fourth way, if you want to register 2 or more people from the same company, and I want to underscore the same company, okay? It's got to be the same company, and we're going to, don't worry, we're going to do our homework and make sure that you're from the same company. But if you want to register 2 or more people from the same company, regardless of whether you're going to do it early or whatever, we want to save you some money. So we're going to give you a 10% savings if you register 2 people at the same time. And of course, you can register 3 or 4 and that savings gets multiplied. But we want to help you out if you're going to do a group. So we've really thought about the pricing. We've tried to answer questions of what if I'm ready to go now? And we try to give you an incentive. We've tried to say, okay, if you can't do it till after the first of the year, what if you need to split it up into payments? What if you're going to bring a group? We tried to address all those things. And so I would argue we've given you a pretty nice set of options around the payment terms. So those are the details I would share. When it starts, when it ends, what it is as far as the project cycle, and that's our pricing. What would you add? What did I leave out?
Yeah, this is what I would add. I get daily emails from people saying, hey, I like the way you work. I like the way you teach, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. I need some mentoring. I get this all the time. I need mentoring. And I've, for me to do mentoring, to spend the time that you need to walk you through or to handhold you through doing to learn, right? So to do a project that takes 4 or 5, 6 hours to put together between conversations and research and putting it together, I would have to charge a significant amount of money to, because of the opportunity cost with my other clients, so a 6-week mentoring program one-on-one would cost $25,000, $30,000. I mean, the folks that want to purchase a license from my business, and I have 2 licensees, I say, Hector, I want you to take me under your wing and teach me how to do what you do. These people pay $50,000. I couldn't otherwise teach you everything that I know, over a period of months, unless I was charging something like that. So this is the next best thing let's just call this is your weekly mentoring for $500 a week. It's weekly mentoring where you're going to have the exact piece of information that you need. Again, we told you what you're going to learn. We're not teaching debits and credits. We're not teaching how to reconcile a bank account. We're teaching positioning, which is how to market yourself and brand yourself in an impactful way. We're teaching pricing, so you forever, learn the skill of pricing your services and valuing yourself. And lastly, the framework for innovation and disruption, because you're going to be consistently improving your positioning and your brand, consistently refining your pricing, and consistently innovating and disrupting. And we're not going to teach you how to do it. We're going to teach you the framework that would allow you to create your own system, create your own plan. So you have the tools in your head, and you can always be doing it on your own. So that's what I like to add. It is the first time ever that I can mentor people in a large group, and we decided to basically give away the 3 most important things to have a successful practice.
Sounds good to me. So if you want to sign up, go to artofvalue.com/AltAccountant. If you have questions, you can email me, kirk@artofvalue.com, or Hector, how can they register, or how can they contact you if they want to ask you a question?
Yeah, they can email me directly if they have questions specifically to my practice and that sort of thing, hector@garciacpa.com. But by the way, Kirk, we have 2 signups already. And I was pretty sure they were going to come in because they had emailed me yesterday as when we teased it into Facebook, and they said, as soon as the website's up, we'll sign up. So we got 2 signups already. So, I mean, we're pretty certain, and Kirk and I were thinking, this is the first time we're doing it, that we're going to have at least 10 people. And that's kind of like our goal. So we can have at least 2 groups. And the 2 groups we'll have two groups that are completely separate that we're learning on their own. That allows both of us to sort of man each group. And so I think that's kind of like where we're going to go. But regardless of how many people sign up, it doesn't matter because everybody's going to be in their own silo of small groups. So regardless if we get 100 people, we're all going to schedule it in such a way that the learning experience will just be your small group. So
sounds good. Well, Hector, I'm excited about this. Next week, we'll return to kind of our weekly topic that we discuss. But number 1, it was timely to get this information out. And 2, we're just fired up about it. Yeah. And so let us know what questions you have. Hit us up on Facebook, email, Twitter, but we'd love to see you in this. And I promise you, it will change your business.
Likewise. Bye, Kirk.